I'm very pleased now that we continue with the roundtable discussions of key experts, whom I briefly, you see on the screen, their nice portraits, I put it like this. On the left side, you see José Luis Rodríguez. I apologize if I do not pronounce it correctly, who's the Director-General of the Planification Ordenación Forestal in the Conseil of the Rural Region in Galicia. And another José is sitting next to him, José Francisco Silva, who had introduced himself kindly already this morning, who's a member also of OSA, and he's representing the Portuguese private forest owners, and is involved since 1990 already in forest operations management of private forest owners in Portugal. Then we come to the First Lady in the round table, so it's a pleasure to present to you Professor Dr. Magda Kharrat, who is from the Lebanon, who is from the University of Beirut. Today she is at the European Forestry Institute located in Barcelona, the EFIMED office. She's a sister of mine at the Academy of Forestry in France in the section 2. Magda is an outstanding researcher when it comes to genetics, genotyping, I would say, in the whole Mediterranean basin. So she knows everything about every tree there. And 50% of those trees are endemic, so you won't find them anywhere else. Looking forward to that. And from us, on the right side, but of course left side, for you is Gölin Carina Christiansen. She's from the North Sweden European Office and ERIAFF network, and she's located in Brussels. And she's one of those actors who tries every day to get everything related to the region development, also forest-related, forestry issues, into the policies and vice versa back to Sweden. Very happy to have you with us. And last but not least, Ferran Dalmau Rovira from MED 21 GSA. And you already presented yourself this morning that you are a small and medium enterprise and that you have some struggles, as I do have with the small company right now also when it comes to European programming. Thank you very much, all of you, to be here. And we want to discuss now what we heard this morning and what we discussed with the first expert panel. You've heard about this European programming, the policies and so on, and you're the ones who have very specific tasks in your daily life. What does it mean? Some of you had already contributed this morning and commented on that. And how can you use it, but also how do you see the problems and what needs to be changed? Because we're here to influence. Marcus is still with us. Thank you. And but also we want to influence ourselves. We want to exchange among ourselves experiences, good examples, and things where we see, okay, whatever we try, it's not working. Who can help me to go on? Can we get the first good example? Because being half Finn, Magda's a sister from the academy, you're a sister by country. Can we start with Sweden? What are good examples, experiences from your point of view? What you've heard this morning, which you can use daily, and where do you see really obstacles?
Examples from today? That was a hard question.
This is why I'm here.
Yeah. No, that was a really hard question. You're kind of filled up with your normal, what you want to convey, right? That's like what you do. And yeah, I guess I'm very happy with Marcus. So that's like, yeah, it's a brilliant speaker, and it's great that we have more people from the forest sector working in the European Union. So that's, I guess, that's a big hope for the future. And also, I may want to say that, like I said previously, that you actually can change things. And
how?
Yeah. Well, how? That's a good question, because you just work every day and then something happens. But no, you talk to people. You're there, like you're there, and you have meetings. You write letters. You arrange meetings with the stakeholders at home, which it's the politicians of northern Sweden. And sometimes, like I understand what Marcus said about the meetings, you have to really prepare them before the meetings and also prepare with information to the actual person from the commission so they have a basic understanding of what we want to say. And then you have to prepare the participants, because sometimes they can be, the politicians, when they meet the commission, they sometimes can be a little bit intimidated. Like they feel that, oh, I'm meeting this huge power here, and some of them is not very good in English either, so it makes them insecure. So that is, I would say that is, it can be a problem sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Ferran, what is your experience to this and what we discussed today in your daily life?
A ver, la primera cuestión pasa por Estamos manejando un alto grado de incertidumbre. Luego volveré a la parte de la incertidumbre, pero muchas veces a mí la palabra experto me horripila. O sea, yo cuando me dicen eres experto, yo me echa para atrás, lo de ser experto, por la responsabilidad que tiene la palabra experto, bajo mi punto de vista. Entonces, lo primero, alto grado de incertidumbre. No tenemos una bola de cristal, no podemos saber lo que va a pasar. Tenemos modelos. Dijo el padre de los modelos estadísticos, Edward P. Box, dijo que all models are around, but some models are useful, ¿vale? Entonces, al final la modelización no deja de ser una simplificación de una realidad compleja y no manejamos todas las variables. Si esto en vez de ser una mesa redonda hubiera sido una presentación al uso, como las que hemos visto esta mañana, yo había preparado una idea que me gustaría trasladar al sector, reunido aquí, por cierto, gracias a Euskadi y a sus gentes forestales por invitarme. No es la primera vez que vengo, pero es muy agradable venir a este sitio por todo lo que se aprende. Mi speech iría sobre, en la era de la inteligencia artificial, convivimos con la ignorancia orgullosa. O sea, la IA, vs. la IO, ¿vale? Porque vivimos en un momento en el que mucha gente... La diferencia entre un tonto y un ignorante es que el ignorante es consciente de que lo es y trata de resolverlo. El tonto es un ignorante que no sabe que lo es. Y el problema es que muchas veces estamos rodeados de gente que... Yo sé muy poquito de incendios forestales y solo sé de incendios forestales o de gestión forestal, pero sé muy poquito. Entonces, la primera cuestión que tenemos sobre la mesa es el tema de la incertidumbre. Una incertidumbre brutal que condiciona las decisiones. El segundo problema, y tiene mucho que ver con lo que estábamos hablando esta mañana con Marcus, el abandono rural. Lo hablaba antes con José Luis. Nuestros abuelos, nuestros padres, trabajaron muy duro para que no seamos agricultores, para que no seamos ganaderos, para que no seamos silvicultores, para que seamos ingenieros, abogados, periodistas, y eso tiene consecuencias sobre el territorio. Aquí en Euskadi aún queda, igual que en Galicia o en otras regiones, aún queda sector, pero se está perdiendo. Y con ese sector se está perdiendo conocimiento, mucho conocimiento, y pagaremos esa factura en algún momento, ¿vale? Evidentemente, aparte del abandono rural, otro de los problemas de nuestro día a día es el problema de la sequía. Yo vengo de una región en la que llevamos déficit de sequía estructural durante los últimos años muy importante. Cambio climático implica cambio de paisaje. Y les lanzo una pregunta a todos los que están en esta sala y saben mucho de gestión forestal. ¿Cómo podemos conservar algo en un sistema cambiante? ¿Cómo se conserva algo que está en permanente cambio? Yo quiero que me lo expliquen. Porque la Comisión Europea se ha centrado en conservar, pero a lo mejor la palabra es equivocada. Necesitamos otra palabra, y la palabra es gestión. Podemos discutir qué tipo de gestión. Si más productivista, más de protección, más orientada a la biodiversidad, a los mercados de carbono, voy a decir una palabra que para cierta gente puede ser tabú, rewilding, ¿vale? Hay gente de mi sector que dice rewilding y le explota la cabeza. Tampoco es eso, ¿vale? Es decir, vamos a encontrar un equilibrio, ¿de acuerdo? Claro, acá vienen las sequías, vienen las plagas y viene el decaimiento de las masas. La banda marrón es un gran problema. Se están muriendo árboles en pie. Tenemos miles de hectáreas de árboles muertos en pie esperando el próximo incendio. Y al final el incendio lo único que hace es poner orden en el sistema. Entonces, y no nos equivoquemos, los incendios forestales son una consecuencia de una enfermedad mucho más grave que es la relación que hemos decidido tener ustedes y yo con el medio que nos sustenta. Entonces es una consecuencia y esto tenemos que tenerlo en cuenta. Luego otro de los problemas que yo me encuentro en mi día a día, y supongo que no soy el único al que le pasará, es el de los prejuicios y el desconocimiento de la gestión forestal. A mí me escandalizó cuando mi hija trajo un día el libro de texto a casa y el forestal que cortaba árboles era el asesino. En lugar de ser el doctor del bosque, era el asesino del bosque. Algo está muy enfermito en nuestra sociedad si los que gestionamos los bosques somos los malos. Algo nos tenemos que hacer mirar. Y por ir acabando, evidentemente, plagas, falta de gestión, falta de conocimiento de la sociedad, todo eso sumado implica un incremento del riesgo de destrucción del recurso. Estamos viendo... ahora luego pondremos una gráfica, cuando le iré o me confirméis que se puede poner. Si queréis para luego, para la segunda ronda, ¿sí? Pondremos una gráfica en la que... No se puede poner. Bueno, pues nada, era una gráfica simplemente donde se ve que cada vez tenemos más olas de calor, pero cada vez tenemos menos incendios forestales. Voy a repetirlo, porque igual no se entiende. Tenemos menos incendios forestales. Menos. El problema es que los que se hacen grandes, se nos hacen... Luego daré datos, porque a mí no me gusta opinar, a mí me gusta argumentar, ¿vale? Entonces, tenemos cada vez menos incendios, pero el que se nos escapa se nos hace muy bestia. Euskadi hasta ahora ha sido esa pequeña aldea gala de Uderzo, ¿vale? Asterix y Obelix, aquí, no estaban en Francia, estaban aquí en Euskadi escondidos ahí. Hasta ahora se ha ido librando, pero bueno, eso tampoco va a durar siempre, ¿vale? Esto lo tenéis que tener en cuenta. Y ya lo último, otro de los problemas que yo me encuentro para tener datos es, por comentárselo a Marcus, la estadística europea está en Open Data, pero no es nada fácil de gestionar. Y para poder argumentar hacen falta datos.
Thank you very much. You covered quite the complexity in all aspects. So that was really a very good, I would even say, a good trip through the forest and the situation today. And as you said, we are not here because it's easy. We're here to discuss what works and what we need to do together. If it's easy, then probably we do not need meetings like this. So I'm very happy what you share. Magda, you were nodding many things. What do you say from your point of view? And if I wrap up, so what you see the role of this policy making, how we can influence, research can provide, but also the dialogue integration of the stakeholders. Please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I think I'm well placed to now at this time of my career to speak about this. Like 2 years ago, I was completely in the academic sector. I was a researcher with my teaching duties, doing research and trying to figure out solutions for things I thought are necessities. This is what the research is asking for, without really being in connection with what the real situation is on the ground. And then I moved to EFI, where I'm more into translating science to action. And this is where I completely changed my role, and I'm here in between the people asking for science and all this community of research that are as much as numerous as the people asking for solution, and they are doing their science very hardly and very committed to science, but they are not translating it. And my main problem now, or challenge, is to deal with this wealth of information and science that exists already, which is very high quality or less good quality, but what is relevant, and how to translate this into action and into policy, and say all what we need is already here. So our job now is to translate this information in a good language and get it ready for the good timing. Because if I go to Brussels now and I tell them, this is what we found and you should take it over. But if it's not a priority or if it's not an interest now, it will sleep in a desk somewhere. But then I will get it ready and jump on the occasion when it's a good time for it. Or try to push slowly to make it. Because if we have the knowledge that it's something that will pop out soon, we try to work silently in order to make it up in the agenda. So mainly this is a challenge we are dealing with now. And I would say that a very good approach, what's happening today is a very good example of kind of dialogue that should be very frequently repeated here and there in all the country at different levels. But what's very important is this personal contact we keep with our people elected, with the MIP, with people in Brussels, and keep these personal contacts. The institutions are here and they will stay forever. But then these contacts are very related to human. After all, I mean, we are human working. We have our family, we have our, and this is part of our job. But then we don't have to leave behind the human touch. I mean, the personal relationships, and build this confidence and these relationships that they can feel confident to call us at night and say, we have something popping out, how we can help. Or for the MIP or other, don't feel afraid or intimidated by asking for information. Very often scientists have very complex jargons, and we are very bad in communicating it in a simple way and make a very nice and straightforward. And Helga made very good exercise with me in getting how to get these messages in a very comprehensible things. So I think this is where we should be working, and I will speak again about it in the
You are very
discussion.
precise and very good to understand. Thank you very much. Super. Mr. Chen, from your point of view, what we discussed, you already made a good comment this morning, both of you now following. What would you extract is still good for you? We sense all in the room, I think what was presented, discussed this morning is relevant, and we are part of that. How does it show to you? What can you really get out of that useful? But what also would you say, like, we need to do more, we need to strengthen what had been said before? Please, floor is yours. Mr. Chan first, please.
Muy buenas tardes. Me encantaría retomar la idea de la mañana. Se la ciencia produz conhecimentos, tecnologia e inovação, se a indústria, de uma forma general, é ela que vos contrata porque tem dinheiro para hacerlo, porque consigue, através de fundos comunitários, hacerlo, nós outros não. Então, por que é que não temos uma floresta nova, melhorada, biodiversa, com os proprietários e produtores florestais ganhando dinheiro, nós outros padres transmitindo essa rendibilidade nos nossos filhos para que continuem este projeto de uma floresta moderna, pero rentável? O que é que se passa então? Por que é que Portugal tem 33% de floresta abandonada? Este conhecimento não passa para a floresta. Em 1990, lo empecé a detectar. Em las organizações que eu empecé a integrar, minha vida tendo sido também dedicada sempre à res pública, empecé a trabalhar na transferência de conhecimento para a economia real. E, por exemplo, numa associada nuestra de Forestis, que eu presido, que é a Associação Florestal del Baixo Volga, que gerimos 55.000 hectáreas de floresta, que hicimos nós outros. Em 2000, teníamos 200 proprietários florestais sócios. E este ano chegamos aos 2.000. Que passou? Uma coisa que todavia não se ha hablado hoje. Toda a gente tem medo de falar del lucro, da rendibilidade, del dinheiro. Não. Nós outros hicimos 3 coisas muito sencillas. Continuamos a ser esse serviço público de aconselhamento ao proprietário florestal, coisa que Forestis continua a dar também todavia, continua a dar e cada vez mais apoio a todas as cooperativas e associações, pero hicimos mais. Ajudávamos em los licenciamentos, educávamos para a biodiversidade e a indústria começou a ver, bueno, temos aqui uma associação com quem podemos trabalhar para que nos ajude a comunicar algumas espécies menos queridas por los fazedores de opinião pública, por los jóvenes que mandam os governos, porque dominam as redes sociais. Portugal é governado por as redes sociais. E, portanto, a indústria fez uma aproximação à Associação de Produtores. Queremos estar com vocês. Ok? Sim, senhora. Vamos dar as mãos. Pero vamos começar a falar de uma coisa que é tabu para vocês. O preço do material linhoso. Não, isso não se pode, porque é o mercado que lo hace. Pero o cliente é que fica o preço ao provedor. Sim, não abdicamos. Claro, com calma e com transparência, continuamos mantendo a aproximação da indústria e começamos a trabalhar com ferramentas de fomento florestal. Não pagam de uma maneira, pero podem pagar de outra. Las finzas deste mundo, las naveguetas deste mundo, podes ter lá por seguro que te apoiam. De verdade. E que passou? Uma coisa muito sencilla. No momento fundamental, que nós outros estávamos afastados do proprietário, que é o momento da venda da madeira, do material linhoso, da biomassa, da resina, estamos allá. Então, é uma coisa muito sencilla. Estamos aqui para que seja o proprietário florestal a vender de uma forma direta à indústria. El empreiteiro, sim senhor, é muito importante para corte, rechega, transporte, pero transportamos. Antes era um pequeno valor para o proprietário. Ahorita é o mais grande valor para o proprietário. Com esta construção de puente, que nos permite, aumentamos o número de proprietários, de uma forma exponencial. Neste momento temos mais de 200 que têm que assumir compromissos para poder entrar em nossa organização, certificar, etc, etc. Senão não entram. Também há esses compromissos ambientais que seguimos. Não queremos florestas monodiversas, nem de pinos, nem de eucalipto. Queremos uma gestão bem hecha, de um ponto de vista de paisagem. Pero tem que assumir esse compromisso. E, portanto, as associações de produtores florestais, quando em la parte fundamental, que é ajudar, criar, entregar la madeira, temos que hacerlo. E temos que nos capacitar, enquanto organizações, para hacerlo. Hace toda a diferença.
Super, that's very interesting and very precise. You touched upon something that is very important we should also discuss, but first we listen to Mr. Rodríguez from Galicia, what you would like to express what we have seen this morning and what you would take out from yourself and what's good practice already.
Vamos a ver, y centrando un poco en el tema de investigación, y que yo no soy un experto, no es un tema semántico, sencillamente no lo soy. Tengo experiencia en la administración forestal y lo que quiero hablar de la investigación un poco desde ese punto de vista. Y también enlazando con algunas intervenciones que hubo esta mañana. Me pareció muy interesante la intervención de Rosario, la compañera de Portugal, cuando dijo que la investigación no es solo innovación. Es decir, estamos con el tema de la bioeconomía, los nuevos productos en la construcción, tal. Eso es importante porque que esos sectores hagan de efecto trator sobre la gestión forestal es muy importante. Y también es importante que vaya encajando, ¿no? Si eso hace, digamos, efecto trator con su propia dinámica y se olvida de la gestión forestal en su territorio, probablemente lo que produzcamos son una situación peor de la que tenemos. Pero efectivamente en la gestión forestal tenemos unos problemas estructurales tan graves que la investigación o la información, la formación, no puede ir solo encaminada a la innovación. Eso hace falta, pero también es importante porque a veces los grandes pasos se dan en pequeñas soluciones o pequeños apuntes. Y ahí quería también un poco apoyarme en la última transparencia de Nelson cuando hablaba de los sistemas de decisión forestal, que ponen en diferentes marcos, a nivel europeo, a nivel estatal, a nivel regional. Pero esos sistemas de decisión forestal, la forma de alimentar esos sistemas de decisión forestal es lo interesante, porque se van adaptando a cada marco. Y ahí, tanto los investigadores como la gente que está trabajando continuamente en eso, tienen que intentar hacer el esfuerzo de llegar ahí con información clara para que la gente, cuando tiene que tomar decisiones, y en eso sí que llama a punto, tengamos conclusiones claras, premisas claras, donde apoyar las decisiones donde desarrollar nuestros marcos normativos, nuestros marcos financieros, porque es lo verdaderamente importante. Yo creo que la clave, y lo decía Nelson, es que los sistemas de decisión forestal tienen que estar bien estructurados, bien alimentados. Creo que esa es una de las claves que tenemos. No somos un sector forestal precisamente que podamos presumir de transparencia, de comunicación hacia afuera. Y esa responsabilidad o esa corresponsabilidad que tenemos que tener todos, creo que la tenemos que tener presente. Por lo tanto, me parece que todos tenemos que hacer un esfuerzo en tratar de mejorar toda la cadena de los diferentes eslabones que van desde el monte hasta la tercera transformación o lo que se quiera ahí, pero además parándonos también en los diferentes estadios. Los propietarios, los viveristas, los gestores, las empresas de servicio, porque es la forma de mejorar esto. Y a veces avanza más parándonos en la situación básica que no en el final de la cadena. Es muy bonito tener un ático con una piscina skyline, pero si no hay cimientos, no hay estructura del edificio, no hay buen ático arriba. Con lo cual, creo que seguimos teniendo carencias en aspectos claros de transversalidad, de transferencia, de formación, y creo que ahí tenemos que hacer un esfuerzo entre todos.
Thank you very much. I had to wait for the great translator. The translators do a great job today. Thank you very much, both of you. Fantastic. Magda, I start with you again, and if you allow me, I do a very provocative question. We have more than 10,000 man-years of research capacity in forestry across Europe. 10,000 man-years means more than 10,000 people work daily in research and forestry across Europe. If we calculate into that all the other disciplines which are relevant, from biology, entomologists, and others who are not identified per se, yeah, we're much higher. If you, how can I ask you, and just be, how can we, as you perfectly said, really make use of their sometimes very specific knowledge, which is relevant? And as it was said earlier, also, we need more understanding here and there and ideas how we can benefit from that and implement, because this session is also how do we implement actually the policies, the programs, the development, how do they help us? From your experience, you're really outstanding there, and you try and you work hard to get this kind of like communicated. I would even say you are a converter of research findings into general understanding.
Yeah. There's two things. The first one is the knowledge that is now ongoing, either funded by EU or not. Like 10 years ago or 20 years ago, there was a huge effort in translating the science into the general public, whatever is the public. And we included in every research proposal a clause where we had to say, okay, you get funding, but one of the deliverables would be what's in it for the public, for the society, in your science, whatever it is. I think we should do the same for the forest. Now, many European projects have it indirectly. We know that it will be noted positively if we put it, but it's not mandatory. So it should be mandatory. You have science, and you have one of the deliverables to show at the end of your work what's in it for forest, for policy, for society, in a clear way, because no one will know what's in your science more than you. I can be the translator. I will read the papers. And I say, this is good. We compile many papers, and this is what comes out, and I will translate it and take it. But the job will be much faster and much effective if the people doing the science will already tell you, this is what I'm contributing to the global science framework.
Just one comment, and then if you have a trained researcher who's specialist, let's say, in a laboratory work, I had managed researchers for more than 50 years, huge units. And I was asked in Brussels, and they asked me, how do you describe your job? And I said, it's like managing artists with one huge difference. If you manage an opera singer, I can hear immediately if there's talent or not. In research, it takes longer.
Yeah.
To be frank and honest, and I had worked with brilliant people where I really had efforts to understand them, but they did great work. So I will not accept them or expect them to kind of like be the communicators. You need other specialists like you and others who can make the bridge, I think.
This is for sure. But these people have to make the effort.
Yes.
They will not go public and explain, but they can make the effort to translate it into translator and into explicit product. But also there's two things. Again, you have the fundamental research, which is a long-term and really very hard or dry, I would call it. But there's something also that it's already replying to a need from the ground. So this one is much easier. And very often people jump from one project to another without making the effort to valorize their work and make it, because they want to have more money to sustain the people to keep doing research. And I can understand this. But I mean, when it's valorized, when it's expected, we are giving it space and time for people to do it. And this can make things move better.
Oh, thank you very much. That was very relevant. Carina, you want to intervene? Please.
Yeah. I have the great, there's no lack of knowledge, I think. When there is a new proposal, we always contact the research, the science, all the time, and to get the information to do the correct position papers. However, in the last 2.5 years, there's about 8 legislations, 7, 8, that it concerns forestry directly, and they have gone through very quickly. So, and we talked a lot here about the lack of time, commission, lack of time. Everybody has lack of time, but why do you have to force 8 or 7 or 8 legislations that regards forestry that fast? And the truth of the matter is there is no analysis for consequence, for how these many legislations, how they together affect countries and regions that are heavily dependent on forestry. The analysis is not there as yet. They're already decided, most of them, but there's no analysis. So we don't know how this is going to affect our regions, which is half of Sweden, 15 million hectares of forest. And people are heavily dependent on this. We have industries. We have, in all of Sweden, we have about 300,000 forest owners, private forest owners. They own about 30 hectares each. Finland has about 630 forest owners. Together we're 1 million, which is just as many as doctors in the United States. And also for Sweden, these people, the 300,000 private forest owners with their approximately 30 hectares each, they provide the majority of the resource to the industry. They're no minor group. And if you look at the forest policy, there's only one that I can see had benefits the private forest owners. That would be carbon removal certification, where they can actually get some money for having planting trees and reforesting, or providing wood for buildings or whatever. There is some money there. But otherwise, none of those legislations have any benefit to the private forest owners. None of it. I think this big corporation, they could probably handle it, because there comes lots of liability with the soil directive and the deforestation regulation. So there's lots of liability and risk involved. Also nature restoration, which may or may not go through. But so there's a lot of liability and risk and administration and reports. So the general trends of all these legislations are basically less forestry, less decision-making in the member states, and increased surveillance of forest owners. And in Sweden, we have this idea of freedom and responsibility for the forest owners. It has worked really, really well. And now there's been a culture of trust towards the authorities, to the forest owners, and they're very proud people. And now there's trust moving to distrust from the union. They need surveillance so they don't destroy their own forests, which they own. It's ridiculous. And so to speak, I like to have a positive outlook, a positive view, because otherwise we cannot change anything. So I have a positive idea, but I want to also convey the emotions from my home area, where people feel attacked by Brussels policy. They feel powerless, they feel depressed, and they don't know how this is going to affect them, and nobody knows. And when you don't know about the security of your own asset, you want to take home fast profit. So I think people are now harvesting more and earlier because they're very insecure about the future of their asset.
But allow me one comment, and then Magda. There is no European regulation, strategy, or whatever action plan without money behind published. So everything we take from the forest strategy, we take from biodiversity strategy, the circular economy action plan, whatever, you have to read them together. I do understand it's complicated, but there's always money available for whatever is proposed inside, for forest owners, for industries, for communities or other interest groups. So just to say that I understand, and this is why we're here, and thanks for the openness that you see, they feel attacked by Brussels. But actually there are means, and it has been shown by Markus on one slide also already, some few ideas. Yes, please, and then Magda.
Yeah, I'd like to say that compared to forestry in Sweden is the economical backbone for common people. And so many people are dependent on forestry, and it's a real industry. There's no subsidies, and there's pride in that, because as long as when you add a lot of subsidies to it, like as you do to the farmers, you're much more bound. You know, there's lots of surveillance on the farming community because there's lots of subsidies, but in forestry, it's a real market, it's real money, it's profitable. In Sweden it is. I know there's problems elsewhere, but it's profitable. So, and I think we should keep it like that. Then, okay, subsidies for bioeconomy, whatever.
No, that's good what you say, because that's exactly the difference between Sweden or Finland, let's say, to here, or the area where I grew up, where private forest owners have less than 1 hectare, and you can give them all the freedom, but nothing is moving. Because you cannot, it's super what you said. So the model is different, and this is also, of course, we understand. Other areas may profit much more probably from the programs and will feel less, let's say, cornered. Magda, you want to interfere?
Yeah, I mean, what I would say may not be very, very pleasant, but there is difference in time scale. Maybe if we keep things like they are now, it will be profitable, maybe for 5 more years or maximum 10, but at some point everything will collapse, because what we are living now, it's a changing that fast that Fernando already said about this dynamic ecosystem, and landscape is changing, and we are seeing it in the southern part of Europe. It's changing very fast, and changes arriving. So if we do nothing, and these legislation are somehow not just for the sake of legislation, they are here to protect the common good of Europeans, all of them. And I mean, it's difficult today if I'm earning that much money and I see that I should earn less because I have to plan for future. It's not very pleasant, and a lot of people will be affected negatively. But we should keep room to this dynamic thing. I mean, I can give you an example of this we are all afraid about the climate change, about the warming temperature. I mean, Europe was 2 degrees higher than today, 300,000 years ago, and we are still having forests, etc. And the only difference is the humans were not that numerous at that time, 300,000 years ago, and the landscape was not that fragmented. So forests are not today resilient enough because we are here, because we are occupying the space. So if we were not here, if we have the same landscape without humans in Europe today, forests will manage, some species will disappear, but we will still have forests, different forests, but still forests. But the risk we have today is we are using the forest and we are using the landscape. So we have two problems and we have to put some order. And this is where the science is trying to have some modeling, trying to go to the archaeological background histories and to say, this is what might happen with the uncertainty. So we are all dealing with this problem and trying to translate this knowledge into legislation and try to play this garde-fou, like just warning this. So we should all be responsible and trying to make some concession in order to. So just this dynamic system, we should take care about this moving target and deal with it.
Yeah, thank you. There's an intervention question. Christoph Orazio, please.
Yes. Can you hear me? Yes, okay. It's a question for the European level and for the ground level. You could notice that there is a concept of degraded forest. And for example, plantation forest is considered as degraded forest. And so my question for European level is, how did we reach this point? What is the scientific base or the political process that raised to this point? And my question for the ground people is, what conclusion, what consequences for the ground level, for practitioners?
You mean the definition of that planted forests are degraded forests? Okay, and then this is a little bit like, it's a good question. Please, if you would like to start to answer, Mr. Rodríguez. Is this something you deal with? Is this because we're attacked by this? That's true. We need to plant. We do not have enough area. We have to replant. I think we all agree upon. But it's attacked sometimes by saying this is not natural forest and it's degraded forest and so on. How can we say, sorry, if there's nothing, we have to plant? And also it's a way also to manage and have more diverse forest afterwards. Would you like to start? Oh, Mr. Silva.
Esse é um tema muito importante e que, mais uma vez, o movimento associativo tem aqui uma importância fundamental. Nuestros sócios querem todos plantar espécies de árvores que cresçam muito rápido. Pero nós outros temos que impor regras também. Temos que chamar a atenção à legislação europeia. Temos todos que cumprir. Pero há algo interessante em Portugal. Penso que nossa autoridade florestal é mais papista que o Papa. Temos ICNF que leva as coisas exagera. E há processos aqui, estou falando com algumas pessoas que têm buenos trabalhos, buenos licenciamentos no ICNF há meses ou mais de ano. Impossível, increíble, não há explicação. Por quê? Porque o próprio ICNF não crê, sabe que nós outros, OPFs, organizações de produtores florestais, temos capacitação interna técnica. Temos engenheiros florestais, temos arquitetos paisagísticos, temos geógrafos, temos todo. Mas não confia. Não confia. Se queremos plantar 1000 pés de eucalipto junto a 30% de folhosas, têm que despachar, têm que licenciar. Entretanto, passa fevereiro, março, abril, maio, junho, viene el invierno, el proprietário, desesperado, lo hace por su cuenta. Pero, desta forma, lo hace mal. Porque nós outros decimos, temos que esperar por el licenciamento. Pero o proprietário não vai esperar. E depois acontece o que acontece sempre. Viene a autoridade, passa uma multa, põe um problema, pero nada. no se pasa nada. Y cada vez más el proprietário desacredita. ¿Y qué hacemos perante esto? El movimiento asociativo tiene aquí un papel muy importante. Cuando ensinamos al proprietário, quando ele viene até nós para aprender e nós decimos, tu não vamos cuidar de tus 5.000 metros quadrados, média hectárea. Llama a tus vecinos e vamos a ser uma pequena área agrupada. Nós outros, por exemplo, já temos milhares de hectares em áreas agrupadas de minifúndio. O último que temos são 500 hectáreas de 188 proprietários. Então, sim, viene a bulldoza, viene as maquinárias trabalhar em conjunto, haciendo uma economia de escala, introduzindo os modelos de gestão que a Comissão Europeia, e muito bem, obriga. Não vale a pena repetirlo. Portanto, aqui é fundamental. E mais, o proprietário não tem capacitação de libertar seus 30% da área para este tipo de utilização romântica da floresta. Romântica e correcta. A floresta de conservação. Aí vem, sim, os apoios, porque se eu vou criar em minha propriedade uma servidão administrativa, estou falando bem, serventia administrativa, os afastamentos, como se diz em espanhol?
Distâncias. Distâncias.
Las distâncias, nosotros chamamos de serventias administrativas. Eu vou deixar de ter a produção, servidumbre administrativa, ambiental ou outra. Eu tenho que ser ressarcido de minha pérdida. Para isso deve existir estes apoios. Ora, aqui mais uma vez, o proprietário não sabe disto, tem que ser sempre o movimento associativo aqui na Península Ibérica é fundamental. Para unir, para agregar propriedade, para acrescentar valor, para gerir melhor. Com menos área de fileiras industriais, de madeiras para fileiras industriais, podemos, aumentando a produção a ser melhor e libertar também áreas para florestas de conservação.
Thank you. And you wanted to...
Sí, varias cosas. Estoy muy de acuerdo con algunas de las cuestiones que están comentando. Que estamos enfermos de velocidad. Es algo, todo tiene que ser muy rápido, todo va demasiado rápido y eso es un problema muy grave en estos días. No hay tiempo para analizar los datos. Por eso me he centrado en el tema de la inteligencia artificial, porque al final la inteligencia artificial nos está trayendo, de hecho, la capacidad de analizar muchos datos de formas que no conocíamos y de encontrar puentes. Entonces, digamos que podemos clasificar el conocimiento en 4 grandes bloques. Voy a intentar explicarme, sobre todo porque los traductores si no me van a odiar. Hay cosas que sabemos que las sabemos. Me refiero a la incertidumbre, ¿vale? Estoy hablando de la incertidumbre. Hay cosas que sabemos que las sabemos. Es el conocimiento que tenemos. Hay cosas que sabemos que no las sabemos. Son las cosas que investigamos. Hay cosas que no sabemos que las sabemos. Es decir, hay cosas que aún no hemos conectado el conocimiento entre la investigación, los propietarios forestales, las empresas. Y ahí puede apoyar mucho la inteligencia artificial. El problema es que hay una parte de cosas que no sabemos que no sabemos. Y esta parte es la que a mí, personalmente, como ciudadano, me preocupa. Porque comentábamos antes, claro, todos tenemos una vida y no puedes estar 24 horas al día trabajando. Pero es que yo creo que a veces nos equivocamos con las prioridades. En mi caso, yo vengo de una región en la que la prioridad es que no se nos destruya el recurso. Es decir, mi tierra, zona mediterránea, tenemos muchos montes que no tienen un proyecto de ordenación. Nuestra productividad no es alta, no es como pueda ser en Galicia o es como pueda ser en la cornisa cantábrica. Entonces, nuestros propietarios tienen la fragmentación, pero encima mucha menos productividad. ¿Qué pueden ofrecer? Pueden ofrecer algo que tampoco ha salido de momento, pero que vamos a tener que abordar en algún momento en Europa, que es el pago por servicios ambientales. Es decir, la servidumbre. Si usted me obliga a mí a mantener el bosque en este estado, mi bosque le está dando a usted paisaje, le está dando a usted agua, le está dando a usted aire limpio, le está dando a usted servicios ambientales. Y otra cosa, yo no quiero que me paguen una subvención. Vamos a diferenciar entre... porque el lenguaje es muy importante. Vamos a diferenciar entre subvención y pago por servicio. ¿Vale? O sea, porque es que yo cuando viene una persona a mi casa y hace un trabajo, viene un fontanero a mi casa, le pago por el servicio de fontanería. Pues si un selvicultor, un propietario forestal, está prestando un servicio a la sociedad, tiene que recibir un pago por eso. Y yo voy a la parte que a mí más me compete, que es la parte de incendios forestales. Si un propietario lleva a cabo una actuación preventiva, ¿por qué no le pagamos el servicio de prevención de incendios? ¿Por qué no se le aporta un dinero? Porque además hay otra cosa que me gustaría aprovechar. El pobre Marcus, espero que no se vaya con la sensación de ser el sparring de esta sesión, porque no es la intención. O sea, esto está hecho de... Se va tomando notas, bien. Pero la cuestión es...
He loves it.
La cuestión está en que al final tenemos una situación en la que tenemos que intentar buscar soluciones realistas y pagar esos servicios. Y aquí me gustaría lanzar una idea para la comisión, porque yo soy muy de plantear problemas, pero también aportar alguna idea de solución. La prevención de emisiones de CO2 o de gases de efecto invernadero por los grandes incendios forestales, ¿cuánto vale? En dinero, en euros. ¿Cuánto vale que yo tenga mi monte bien gestionado y no arda? O si arde, que arda en baja intensidad y, por tanto, que genere menos cantidad de emisiones o menos destrucción del suelo. Porque además, no me preocupa solo la masa forestal, me preocupa el suelo como gran reserva de gases de efecto invernadero. Entonces, y luego hay otra pata que me gustaría abordar. Anoche hablaba con 3 compañeros de aquí de Euskadi sobre que no hay que ponerle apellidos a la gestión forestal. No estábamos del todo de acuerdo. Yo sí que pienso que hay que ponerle apellidos. Hay una silvicultura que es la silvicultura eco-hidrológica. Habrá gente en la sala que no sepa que hay estudios que demuestran que una masa hiperdensificada se bebe hasta el 59% del agua de una cuenca. El 59% del agua de una cuenca. Es decir, estamos compitiendo en mi región, estamos compitiendo con los árboles para beber. Porque hay zonas en las que nos sobran árboles. Que la solución de Europa sea, la gran panacea europea sea, vamos a plantar más árboles. Yo lanzo una pregunta, ¿y si cuidamos primero los que ya tenemos? ¿Y si gestionamos primero lo que ya hay, en vez de meter más? Habrá zonas en las que haya que plantar, yo no digo que no. Yo soy el primero que, cuando veo una zona degradada, que no tiene vegetación o que no tiene, y se puede meter, hágase, pero ¿y qué hacemos con todo lo que tenemos? Y acabo, al final, si no empezamos a pagar a los propietarios por los servicios ecosistémicos que prestan a la sociedad, esto no funciona. Hay que empezar a derivar recursos urbanos al monte. Y esto pasa por una cuestión muy sencilla. También viene del mundo de las emergencias. Europa tiene un problema grave de conciencia situacional. No somos conscientes de en qué situación estamos. No somos conscientes de qué está en juego. Y yo tengo muy clara una cosa. Lo único bueno que tiene la insostenibilidad es que si no actuamos, pagaremos las consecuencias y las pagarán nuestros hijos. Y efectivamente, a mí me hace mucha gracia cuando los colectivos ecologistas, y lanzo una cuestión que introduciré después, tenemos que empezar a trabajar. Nosotros hace muchos años que trabajamos con los colectivos ecologistas. Si vemos a los ecologistas como un problema, no vamos a llegar a ninguna parte, porque nos guste o no nos guste, el relato y la masa crítica la tienen ellos, no nosotros. Pagaremos un precio muy alto. Entonces, si no empezamos a trabajar de forma coordinada en lo que debe de ser prioritario, que es el problema que tenemos encima de la mesa, nos están señalando a la luna y seguimos mirando el dedo.
Thank you very much. Super. But I think when you look at what you addressed, I think the good story is also on our side, not only on the environmental side. Probably we are not good storytellers about the emotional aspect, what we are doing, and the identification. You pointed to something, or then is there any question or comment from the audience? You're all still smiling. Come on. There must be some questions also from your side. My question now to you, we talk about the policies, you gave super examples where you try to really overcome some obstacles, some problems, you try to collaborate. We hear here and there from nobody, you used, Ferran, thank you very much, you talked about artificial intelligence. My question also, because listening the whole day is also, we have a complexity, we need to fulfill some requirements, we have regulations. Carina, you said there are like 8, 9 regulations coming immediately, something. There's one thing, first of all, I would like to ask the audience, whom of you is using very well advanced technologies, meaning like ICT technologies, digital technologies, that help you every day in your operations and management? Raise your hand. Welcome to the 21st century. You see, this, I think, is the one thing, because we talked about the monitoring system, and also, Magda, what you have to do. When you go to ResearchGate or other sources, we live in the times where we're overflown with information or with propaganda and all these things. At the same time, if we have this complexity of management, and as we heard from all of you, all what you have to take into consideration, don't you think that some new tools, models, apps, tailor-made for the needs could help us in artificial intelligence? We test it. I test it with clients on several things. It's not that you can sit and lay in bed and say, please make a presentation for me. No, but it can help you, the more you know yourself on things, to extract and get good information and things out. But it needs work, but it's a good tool to work with. That's what I would like to say from my very limited experience. I have to say I'm not an expert in there. But wouldn't this be something, because when I still discuss sometimes with the Commission Service for the monitoring, there were two dreams. The dream is that you have something like an iPhone or a smartphone as a forest owner or operator, where you get all the information you need, plus extra information to understand. This is state of the art today. We have the technologies. I've used it myself, tested it. It's breathtaking, where you can have forest monitoring inventory systems working in a break of a second with an information level which we have not seen before. In addition, you can have this robot dogs going through your forest, and in 2 hours, even connected to satellites, you have all the information and the precision. I've seen it myself. It's a startup in Luxembourg. It's mind-blowing. You have a 3D model. If you allow me to illustrate it to you, so your whole forest is like a digital twin, and that you understand how useful this can be. I live downtown Paris, Hamus as well. We had this horrible fire at Notre Dame. The whole world was shocked. There was a very happy coincidence that 6 months before the fire, the University of Bamberg in Franconia in Bavaria, where Franz is from, but he has nothing to do with this, they came to test a total new model. They made a digital twin of whole Notre Dame inside, outside, on the smallest scale. So this is why we're able in France to rebuild it, reconstruct it in 5 years' time, because every information was there. And I think if we get this, and we can get this with the forest monitoring, and that you can have predictions and you can make your management plans either for improving resilience, adaptation, timber production, biodiversity things, and this is connected with all the other information. This is actually the idea behind. And you have a simple interface yourself, if it's a tablet or a smartphone. And at the same time, you can see from all over Europe and other places in the world, let's say there's a horrible insect coming, causing problems, and you immediately understand how this is to be managed. This could help us much more and reduce the time. And you have at the same time a communication tool, also access to the services and others. So what do you think about that?
Yo voy a hacer lo mismo que has hecho tú. Voy a hacer una pregunta y luego voy a contrastar los dos. Me ha encantado la gráfica de esta mañana de Helga, se lo estaba contando durante la comida, porque la gráfica que ha mostrado acerca de la percepción de la sociedad sobre los problemas, en este caso sobre la cuestión forestal, por favor, que levante la mano quien crea que los incendios forestales en Europa están creciendo en número de incendios.
Están creciendo.
¿Quién cree que hay más incendios ahora que antes?
No.
Vale. ¿Quién cree que hay menos incendios ahora que antes? Vale. Voy a poner el ejemplo de España. Este trabajo me gustaría poder hacerlo para toda Europa. De hecho, si hay alguien en la sala interesado en que esto se pueda hacer, a lo mejor a través de Marcus, podemos buscar quién nos ayude a hacer esto. Porque el dato no está. Están los datos sueltos, pero no está el dato procesado. A pesar de que desde los años 80 del siglo XX hasta ahora, cada año, por cada década, se ha alargado el verano 10 días, y a pesar de que ahora hay mucha más superficie forestal, actualmente, les voy a dar un dato, en el año 60, la década de los 60, la media de incendios al año estaba en 1.800 incendios al año, ¿vale? En los años 70 se subió a los 4.500 incendios al año. En los 80 se llegó a 10.000 incendios al año. En los 90 se llegó a 19.000 incendios al año. ¿De acuerdo? Y la superficie iba bajando, o sea, teníamos cada vez más incendios, pero iba bajando el ratio de superficie. Bien, me voy a 2022. 2022 España tuvo 10.507 incendios. Número total de incendios, 10.507. ¿De acuerdo? Estamos empezando a tener ya datos de décadas pretéritas en cuanto a número de incendios, pero sigue bajando la tendencia en ese sentido. Bien, fue un año raro, fue un año que se salía de la tabla. De esos 10.000 incendios, 7.194 fueron conatos, es decir, menos de 1 hectárea. ¿Vale? Tenemos un sistema de extinción de incendios, tenemos el sistema de extinción de incendios ratio más potente del mundo. España utiliza más medios aéreos por cada 1.000.000 de hectáreas que Estados Unidos. Para que nos hagamos una idea de cuánto nos está costando apagar incendios. ¿De acuerdo? Bien, pues el ratio medio de hectáreas por siniestro pasó de los 8,5 por cada incendio que teníamos en la década anterior, pasó a 25,47 hectáreas de media por incendio. Pero si solo cogemos los 57 que se hicieron grandes, 57 grandes incendios forestales de 10.507, ¿vale? Solo 50 fueron responsables del 80,78% de la superficie quemada. El ratio de esos incendios en superficie fue de 4.696 hectáreas por incendio. Entonces, es un indicador. Es solamente un indicador. Apagar 1 hectárea, con datos de la Agenda Forestal Navarra, está en el entorno de los 10.000 euros por hectárea. Puede estar en el entorno de los 10.000 euros por hectárea. ¿Cuánto trabajo haríamos con 10.000 euros por hectárea en inversión? Porque estamos gastando en negro por no invertir en verde. Y esa es la situación en la que nos encontramos.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rodríguez, please.
A ver, porque ya me quedé con ganas de intervenir antes, pero, a ver, todo es matizable.
Totalmente,
Todo
es un dato, o sea, es solo un dato.
Pero ya a lo que plantaba Horacio respecto al bosque plantado y todas estas cuestiones, es que se están llegando a unas premisas o unas opiniones que yo, desde luego, ya hasta me niego a darle tiempo, porque sencillamente no las entiendo. Cuando las afirmaciones que hay en algunos desarrollos normativos europeos, como que el bosque gestionado es el menos diverso, el bosque que no se gestiona es el que más carbono fija, bueno, son afirmaciones que yo no sé ni en qué se sustentan. Pero además se habla de eso y después se habla de plantar 3.000 millones de árboles. Yo es que no, de verdad que eso con un vino se soluciona. Alguien tiene que ceder la postura. Y si no es con un vino, es con 2. Pero es que no es coherente. No es coherente. Se están recibiendo axiomas y de tal que dices, bueno, pero es que esto alguien tiene que sentarse a hablar. El problema, yo lo tengo claro. Y hablo a nivel de Galicia, creo que es extensivo, por lo menos a la península ibérica. Y aquí se habló. Yo creo que aquí no se trata de plantar, se trata de gestionar lo que tenemos. Y siendo transversales, y tenemos que hacer un esfuerzo de transversalidad, se trata de gestionar territorio. Y el problema de los incendios forestales, yo me niego a asumir que es culpa de las especies forestales o culpa de lo arbolado. Si algo arde es Galicia, y por cada hectárea arbolada que arden 3 hectáreas de matorral, y que muchas veces ese matorral no tiene el concepto legal de monte. Son terrenos agroganaderos abandonados. ¿Y por qué se hacen grandes los incendios forestales? Se hacen grandes los incendios forestales porque los incendios forestales amenazan poblaciones. Y todos los medios de extinción van a salvar a la gente, cosa que es coherente. Y mientras se salvan los pueblos y mientras se saca la gente, el monte arde. Y después dicen, no, es que es el monte. A ver, el monte está claro que está falto de silvicultura y está falto de incrementar la tasa de extracción y está falta de madera y está falto de muchas cosas. Pero es que yo que empecé a trabajar hace 40 años casi, Yo me acuerdo de los incendios forestales y no teníamos ni el 5% de los medios que tenemos ahora. Y cuando estabas en el monte, en las zonas de monte, y bajaba el fuego hacia las casas, no te preocupabas. No te preocupabas porque allí salía gente con 40, 50 años y se apoyaba en sus prados y tal, y le daba contrafuego, y de lo que te tenías que preocupar es que volvía para arriba y que había que andar fino. Pero no era ninguna preocupación. Ahora tú estás en un fuego, y te hablo de una comunidad autónoma que teníamos 30.000 núcleos rurales, ahora ya no hay tantos, tenemos la mitad de los núcleos de toda España. Pues es que siempre un fuego afecta a casas. Y no hay incendio grande que no fuera declarado de nivel 2. Ningún incendio ha sido grande si no ha amenazado previamente a las casas. Con lo cual esto es un tema transversal. Lo que hay que recuperar también, de alguna manera, es actividad agroganadera en el espacio de los valles y de tal para darle protección a eso, porque si no, no hacemos nada. Ahora, de todo eso, el que menos culpable es el eucalipto, el pino, el roble, es que no es así. Y en cuanto al aumento de la superficie forestal, hombre, el dato estadístico en Galicia es claro. Nosotros en los años 80 teníamos 500.000 de hectáreas arboladas, ahora tenemos cerca de 1.400.000. Y alguien me viene que hay que plantar 3.000 millones de árboles. Joder, a ver, tenemos que ir a la gestión. Y antes no sé quién decía de ponerle apellidos a la gestión. Yo tengo claro que el apellido de la gestión es gestión activa. Y más que nada, porque se va a mejorar la estructura de las masas, pero no vamos a perder la vinculación que hay entre el propietario y el monte, que es clave, lo dije antes y lo sigo insistiendo, es que es clave a corto plazo. Y en cuanto a que todo tenemos que leer deprisa, hombre, yo creo que en el monte no hay que tomarse con prisa nada.
Al revés.
Si algunos profesionales pensamos a medio y a largo plazo, somos los de montes, claro, y los propietarios. Pero un propietario que planta un monte está pensando deprisa. Si está pensando en Galicia a 15 años, que somos unos privilegiados en ese tal, pero el otro está pensando a 30 o a 70 años. No tenemos que caer en ese agobio. No vamos a solucionar nada de la noche a la mañana. Nosotros somos un sector que tenemos que pensar a largo plazo y tenemos que dar manejo. Y solo por los incendios. Que bien, yo creo que la gran preocupación, el tema del cambio climático en estos momentos, la gran amenaza es el tema biótico de las masas. Yo estoy convencido que en Galicia en estos momentos perdemos más metros cúbicos o mejor estructura de masa arbolada por temas fitosanitarios que por el tema de incendios. Lo tengo claro. Y hay problemas, y ahí sí que la investigación nos tiene que empezar a aportar información. Tenemos que... Las coníferas tienen un problema serio, las frondosas parece que no tanto. Estuviste en Lugo, estuvimos allí... y entonces ahí sí que nos tienen que dar, y mucho más si tenemos especies exóticas, Pinus radiata, que estamos en el País Vasco, ¿qué alternativas hay? Yes. Hay que apostar por las frondosas, hay que apostar por las coníferas, podemos buscar otras especies para seguir dándole materia prima al sector del aserrado y al sector. Esas son las claves. Los incendios yo creo que es un tema estructural de gestión del territorio y debería de enfocarse siempre desde el punto de vista transversal. Y desde luego yo no defiendo incrementar medios de extinción. Bajo ningún concepto.
Super, thank you very much, and I liked very much what you said. Lera, you were also with me at this meeting when the Commission said we will plant 1 billion trees, and as a forester, you make the calculation. Even we say 3 billion trees. What is it? 600,000 to 1.2, 1.3 million hectares in all over Europe. Will this solve the world problem? Honestly, we know it's good to have. We like the idea. The public thinks that's the solution, but it's not the solution for all the aspects. And thank you so much. It's about management adaptation. You make a very important sentence you were not aware of. Give us time, and forest needs time. And people are not aware of. And policymakers have to react quickly. And they should be aware of it takes time. Our dear friend from the European Commission, quickly, 3 minutes, and then Magda.
¿Aló?
Yes.
it will be very, very short. I mean, I couldn't agree more with what you just said. So I will also not comment on the additional 3 billion trees. But I think we have been so open already in the beginning, and I think the deforestation degradation regulation was just mentioned, and the definition on degradation. I want you to understand that this definition that is currently, or that is in the regulation that has been approved by the ministers of the European Union, it is a political agreement. Because when the draft regulation was published, the definition on degradation was presented, and it was presented as a definition as FAO definition that is internationally agreed, but this was not the case. So then in the end it was a political decision on the degradation. I think it's just for you also to go to understand the background where it comes from, and then perhaps it doesn't make sense because in the political decision every party and every wants to have their own mark in it, and that's what we see in the definition on degradation. So, but I think that's very important also to understand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a small comment.
Yeah,
and really open, that you really understand where it comes from and why sometimes things do not make sense because it's a political agreement. That's it.
But we're here to influence. We start right now. Thank you. Magda, then Ferran and Carina, and then I will ask everyone to have one concluding sentence, what you wish to get to be better. Magda?
Yeah, I would like to highlight the interlinkages again between the science, the policy, and general public and the practitioners. Like many years ago, we were militating to say that native trees are better, exotic or alien species are really the bad thing, and just plant native. And even when we were restoring ecosystem, we were taking reference ecosystem and we tried to go back and bring our degraded ecosystem to the stage how it was 50 years ago. But then the science came and showed that it's not, even so the science was telling us that native is better. But then science and knowledge changed, evolved, and by the time we were changing this message that we were militating to let it arrive to everyone, again now science evolved, and no, we don't have to restore to the past, we have to restore for the future, and making new species not as alien but as needed, as allies to, not alien but allies to come and to help us to be adapted to the future. So by the time legislation is still in some countries not allowing to introducing any non-native species, and native to political boundaries, not even to biogeographical boundaries. So even between France and Belgium, it's alien if it's not occurring already. So just to tell you that this lag of time between the science, the legislation, and the public is really what we can work on to shorten this lag and make things happening. And maybe in 10 years, what we are discussing today will be also, with the technology, will need update. So we have to update our policies, and we have to go back to you and to tell you, to convince you that this is the way to go. And then, so it's a dynamic process.
Super.
So
thank you so much. Carina.
Yeah, like about the planting of trees. No, correct. It's not coherent, not even in the same regulation as the deforestation regulation. On one hand, the primary forest that's not supposed to be harvest can also be a planted forest. Mm-hmm. Can very well be a planted forest. But if you cut it down, you're not allowed to plant after, because then you create a planted forest, and the legislature don't like a planted forest, but still it can be a primary forest, very valuable. So it's not at all coherent, and it also true what Marcus said. Like there was a political, I think, parliament that sharpened, I think the
yes.
wording. Yeah, so that's a fact, and But still, I think we should make a big fuss about it. But because it's going to be evaluated within 2 years after gone into effect. So we still make a big fuss about this regulation because it could be changed. Everything can be changed. One thing that I want to point out with this regulation is that it puts according to the actual wording, and I do read the actual words, is that if you have a natural-looking forest, that would be a primary forest, you cannot harvest it and replant it. So it's kind of out of question if it looks natural and have the biodiversity. But if you have an unnatural-looking forest, it's free to cut and plant and use in forest production. So this is the message we're sending out globally to everybody that want to trade or sell to our market. That's the message. So if you have a forest rich in biodiversity, it loses its value. We don't want it. So you have to create a forest with no biodiversity and looks really unnatural, because then you can actually sell it to the union. And for the family anywhere in this world, what do they choose? Biodiversity, no money, or no biodiversity and an income to support the family.
Yeah.
And so this is a terrible thing that the union is doing to the world, to the foresters in this world. And
it's so great, the discussion, and to listen to everyone, what you're saying. Please, one sentence, what you wish to get, and also what should be changed that we make it better. Who wants to start? Can you start, Mr. Rodríguez, please?
A ver, dos cosas que salieron de refilón, por dejarlas ahí, porque es un poco mi tema personal que siempre saco. Por una, se habla siempre de financiación y de ayudas y de tal. Yo creo que todo pasa, la investigación, la gestión y de tal, por un alineamiento público-privado. Ahí es donde se tiene que encontrar la financiación, la colaboración, la gestión. Creo que ese es el camino. No es fácil, no es... Pero también es cierto que la diferente situación, hoy en día grandes empresas están interesadas en invertir en el monte, en la gestión forestal, y hay que saberlo canalizar. Y no es solo vinculado al tema del carbono. Con lo cual, creo que ese alineamiento público-privado es interesante. Y respecto a las ayudas, hombre, yo gestiono ayudas y es uno de los instrumentos que tenemos para trabajar. Pero creo que no conozco mucho otras legislaciones en países, pero en este país yo creo que tenemos que trabajar la idea de ir buscando una fiscalidad más amigable para las inversiones que se hacen en el medio rural, tanto para las inversiones como para los aprovechamientos, y reducir probablemente el peso de las ayudas. Las ayudas en el sector agroganadero ya sabemos para qué han válido, para sacar los tractores a la calle. Yo creo que la fiscalidad en las inversiones del medio rural tienen que tener una discriminación positiva, claramente positiva. Venga de donde venga el dinero. Hombre, que sea legal, pero venga de donde venga el dinero.
But that's very important what you said. So I summarize in two words: public-private investments more in our sector.
Very much.
Okay, Mr. Silva, one sentence. What's a long sentence? Good.
Una reflexión y una llamada de atención. Nosotros que somos personas que gerimos territorios, para evitar lo que se está pasando en el mundo agrícola, que quizás sea una reivindicación justa. Y a mí me preocupa muchísimo lo que se podrá pasar en un futuro medio plazo con la floresta. Nuestros productos compiten de verdad en el mercado mundial. Por eso tenemos que adaptar siempre estas medidas nacionales y macromedidas comunitarias, tendo sempre isto em aberto. A produção de madeira compite no mercado internacional. Cuidado. Aonde há mão de obra muito mais barata, aonde não há questões ambientais tão relevantes de um ponto de vista de exigência legal, temos que ter sempre muito cuidado para não perder esta competitividade e, portanto, as políticas comunitárias têm que estudar o que se passa em los outros continentes, na produção destas matérias-primas, das madeiras.
Thank you so much. Very good. Magda, one sentence.
Can I say it in French? I'm faster in
Yes, pas de souci. Merci.
J'aimerais voir décloisonner les disciplines. Donc, on a de la chance en Europe d'avoir les systèmes déjà en place, les institutions déjà en place. On a des policiers, on a des chercheurs, donc ils sont déjà en place. Ce que j'aimerais voir, c'est plus de dialogue pour que les choses aillent plus vite. Donc, au lieu de dire, voilà, moi je suis policymaker, je fais que ça, et moi je suis chercheur, qu'il se débrouille de traduire ma science, c'est de voir les gens discuter pour que plus rapidement on arrive à notre objectif de protéger nos forêts parce que c'est urgent.
Bravo. Merci beaucoup. Carina, one sentence.
Sure. Like if everybody wants biodiversity, it's not like Forestry here and the NGOs and they want everybody wants it. And it's in the policy making. We want biodiverse forest. If anybody in Sweden said want to buy a forest, like they rather buy a beautiful forest with biodiversity than a forest with the greater economic value. That's how people are. Everybody wants biodiversity. And so I think lots of the legislations have really good intentions to start with, really good intentions, but to make good legislation to promote nature, biodiversity, you'd have to understand the dynamic situation. There's forestry, or forests, nature, so to speak. There's humans and there's economy. So there's 3 pillars there, and you have to understand there is a dynamic situation. So if you make policy for one, it affects the other, and so on. So I think that's the major thing that's been lacking in the recent legislation, the understanding of the dynamic situation. Not only nature is constantly changing, but also the relationship between all these.
To understand the dynamics and take them into consideration.
Yeah, to make better legislation.
Yes. So
we don't want that legislation that hurt nature.
Yes. Yeah. Or the people or economics, certainly not.
No, of course.
Ferran, one sentence, no figures, please.
No cifras, ok. Más que una única frase, 3 o 4 ideas. Muy breve. Educar. Necesitamos que la sociedad nos entienda. Y a eso solo llegamos a través de la educación. Tejer alianzas entre los ecologistas y los forestales, los biólogos, los ambientales, todo ese tipo de gremios. Entre el sector público y el sector privado. Necesitamos alianzas. Pagar a los prestadores de servicios ambientales. Tenemos que pagar a quienes nos proveen de servicios, agua, aire, paisaje, ya lo he dicho antes. Gestión orientada a objetivos. Tenemos que tener claro que cada porción del territorio tiene unos objetivos. Puede ser la protección, puede ser la producción. Y hay que conseguir esa orientación a los objetivos. Hay que derivar recursos del mundo urbano al mundo rural. Casi el 80% de la población europea ya vive en ciudades. Y cada vez va a más. En España es el 92%. Hay que derivar. Hicimos un cálculo. En España hacen falta 1.000 millones de euros al año. 1.000 millones de euros al año para tener una política...
No figures.
Perdón. Y la última. Todo aquello que no gestionemos nosotros será gestionado por las plagas, será gestionado por el fuego, será gestionado por otros. Con lo cual, gestión.
Super. Thank you very much. Please raise. We applaud our great panelists, and then I promise we have a 10 minutes leg stretch. Please, standing ovations for them. Thank you.